with the rock. You physically couldn't hold me, I don't care if you pushing 40. You can never little bro me. Euro step like Ginobili, from young OG to the OG. From nosebleeds to floor seats. Circle stronger than Cuban links. My gold dance, your gold plated. You verse me, now that's a reach. We ready. Who ready?
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the One-on-One Sports Show here on the Black Man Unfiltered Network. My name is Mr. Bennett with my partner, as always, the coach in the building, Coach Ferg, on this Wednesday. This is draft day, so again, the NBA draft is about to get underway. And so we'll be following the draft picks as they unfold tonight on the channel. So, lots to talk about tonight. We got the NBA, obviously, with the finals, as well as, other NBA-related news, as well as some NFL. So, again, looking forward to a good show tonight. But first and foremost, the coach, how you doing, sir?
What's up, Brother Benny, man? What's up, man? I'm excited about today, man. I've been doing some projects. I'm ready for the draft to start, man. Real quick check-in, though, right?
Yes, sir.
Say I got some arthritis, so my physical is in the, I guess it's in the planning and diagnosis stage right now. So I'm interested to see how they come back with the blood work, how the valves drawn. So I'm a little nervous and excited at the same time, but I'm cool with the draft, man. It's nice and hot over here, man. It's high as it.
Oh gosh, yeah. How it was like 103 here yesterday, and it was like 97, 90. It's been the upper 90s all week here in New Jersey, so I can't imagine what it's like down in your area.
Drink your fluids out there, man. Get your fluid. Drink them.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. But good to be here tonight. Certainly make sure when you come in tonight, make sure you hit the like button. Also consider a Cash App for the Black Man Unfiltered Network. You see the Cash App scrolling at the bottom, as well as Super Chats and anything that you want to contribute to us directly. We appreciate certainly your consideration. So, our Cash Apps are scrolling at the bottom of the screen. And so, certainly looking forward to, again, anything that you guys give us, we greatly appreciate. But yeah, man, let's get into this. Waiting for our guys from Houston. I hope they get in here tonight because a lot of the news is concerning Houston, the Houston Rockets. So we're going to get into that later on, as those guys come in. But yeah, let's just get this out the way. As far as I would say, congratulations to the Oklahoma City Thunder, who, certainly won their first NBA championship, even going back to the, I shouldn't say that the first, because, again, when they were with the Seattle Supersonics, they were certainly, they certainly won a championship up there in 1978, 79 with Dennis Johnson and Gus Johnson back in the day. So this is for them to, certainly get this, certainly to get this chip. I know they've been had great teams for a long time when they had Kevin Durant and those guys, Westbrook and those guys. So again, lots of chances at it, but they finally came together this year. And what I really was appreciative of here is this stat here. Game 7. I mean, again, we always look forward to a competitive series. So Game 7. Most watched NBA finals game in 6 years. So for a lot of the folks out there talking about, this wouldn't be well watched or whatnot, but again, the fans were interested. I mean, if you're a basketball fan, if you like seeing pure basketball, if you want to see teams play deep benches, certainly I think the series gave you as much as you can handle. The down part, what we'll get into, is obviously certainly the injury to Halliburton. He was battling injury throughout the whole playoffs, and it just kind of came to a head at the worst possible moment. But again, shout out to OKC. They got the MVP of the league in SGA, and he was also the Finals MVP, scoring over 30 points a game. So he put in the work, and like I said, this organization, no question, did quite a bit. But what do you guys think of the the Game 7? Just get your overall thoughts before we get a deeper dive, and also the ratings. Certainly, I'm sure the NBA is very happy. 16.4 million viewers on a Sunday night is pretty impressive. So, what's your thoughts, Coach, on the game and the series overall, as well as the ratings from Sunday night?
I mean, listen, I thought it was one of the better games, and teams sort of equal a little bit, because Indiana, I think I predicted in 6 or so, 5 or 6, right? But Indiana truly showed that they were a better team in the second half. They was playing some great team ball. And like you said, Hallenberger, his body just couldn't take it. His body couldn't take it, and that sort of depleted the momentum that they had going, especially, go to the 7th game. But OKC, man, it was seemed like they was destined to win it. They were on a mission. They played the best team ball the whole season. They were number one last year and this year, and they had a hell of a run in the playoffs. So salute to them, man. I think they might be the threat of the NBA for some years to come.
Well, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that for sure. But let's welcome in Brother Shawnee, all the way from H-Town, by way of Dallas. And certainly good to see you. How you doing tonight, bro?
Good, man. Good. Got this draft in the background, so
yeah. So if we don't get a chance, if you guys get a pick in, because I'm kind of paying attention to the chat and everything else, so as a pick come in, definitely let us know, and we'll talk about it a little bit. Obviously, with the draft, Cooper Flagg is projected to be the number 1 overall. What I'm really happy about is my man Dylan Harper from Rutgers, my alma mater, Rutgers University, is ranked as the number 2 pick in the draft. And so certainly this will be the first time in a long time. We got 2 guys who are projected to go in the top 10 of the draft with him and Ace Bailey. And so, very happy for them, happy for the Rutgers program. Unfortunately, they didn't do as well during the year. They had a lot of injuries that they had to battle this year. So, again, I don't think they even made it to a tournament this year. But certainly good for them, good for the program, and again, hopefully they can certainly have something they can build off of that going forward. But yeah, what were your thoughts on the NBA Finals overall, and in particular on Game 7 and the viewership? Again, a lot of people were saying nobody would watch, and I think people were certainly tuned in. And even in our private chat, I was posting throughout the series, the viewership and whatnot, and people seem to be, if you're a basketball fan, I would think you would have to be very pleased with what you saw.
yeah. My whole thing is, it was an entertaining series. Teams, for the most part, protected home court. I still believe that if OKC would have pulled out Game 1, they would have had this in 5. Now they did go and win, 3 of the next 4, but that's hindsight 2020. But Indiana, as I believe, they offense can compete against anybody. Indiana will put pressure on you the way they push the ball. Um, what's his name was a pain to OKC, and that's McConnell.
Yeah.
But he thrives off of Halliburton doing his thing, and then when Halliburton goes sit, McConnell comes and he keeps that tempo up because Halliburton be pushing the tempo as well, and so that's how they able to keep that up throughout the whole game. And when the unfortunate injury happened to Halliburton, that put McConnell in, and you saw the Pacers play with a lot of heart, and McConnell again was just giving them fits in that second quarter. But then once half, it was who was that? Nimhart hit the 3 to put them up by 1 right before the half. But OKC was able to go in the locker room, make the adjustments, and then you saw a different defensive team come out in the third quarter. Matter of fact, that's what allowed the Thunder to stretch their lead to 20 plus points. Now, Pacers NBA team, NBA team is going to make a run. They tried to squeeze it in the fourth quarter, but it was just the deficit was just too big, and they just didn't have enough weapons, So yeah, it was unfortunate that Halliburton he got injured because obviously he got injured so early in the game, but when he made those three pointers early in the game, it looked like okay, we got a game that could potentially go back and forth. But those it was so early in the game, you can't really properly, predict that for the most part, or really project that how the game would. That's how the game would have went. But yeah, it OKC a good team. I know a lot of people now heard they was throwing out the question of OKC going to be a dynasty. Um, what I really enjoy about OKC and Indiana is they are really putting the focal point back on GMs to do their job. The whole super teams era is looking like it's starting to, die down because one, a lot of these, well, the past super teams, they all pretty much failed miserably, the past couple of seasons.
Mm.
And you getting these players, these high profile players who command top dollar, but it sacrifices your roster. So now you basically go out there and just putting all your hopes on these three. I don't really consider a super team with two main players, but a lot of them are three. And they demand top dollar, so they really put a strain on your roster. And you see both of the teams in the NBA are deep. They can go 9, 10, easy. So that was good to see because as a GM, you need to be able to put a team together. You can't go out there and, oh, I'm gonna go get this, you know, first team All NBA player and match them up with my other two first or second team All NBA players, and we're gonna run the table. But now, because many times those players, it's not guaranteed that their chemistry is gonna come. One, and then most of the time you ain't gonna have a bench. So you putting all your weight on the starting five compared to these teams who keep the pressure up 8 to 10 deep in their roster. So it was good. I really enjoyed seeing that as far as actual team. Because there was one time in the Pacers, you knew who's going. If the Thunder win the finals, you knew it's going to be SGA's Finals MVP. To win. The Pacers, you legitimately did not know who was going because they literally had somebody stepping up. Halliburton was just getting all the attention, but Halliburton didn't really have a good season. I mean, finals. A lot of times it was McConnell. Siakam was the most consistent, so I think he would have been the first option. But you saw good team basketball, on both sides. So I really enjoyed that about the finals.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I certainly agree. And by the way, Cooper Flag was in fact the number one pick, so we didn't get any big shocks. That's not a shock to anybody. Cooper Flag, number one pick, and so San Antonio is on the clock, and they got about a minute and a half left before they make their pick as well. So that's about to come on. But yeah, I was certainly very pleased with this series. I feel really bad for Halliburton. Because in Game 7 he was getting off. He scored like 9 points in the first 7 minutes. So I mean, it was looking like he was going to have a statement type of game before that injury happened. And certainly, and coming off of the previous game, he seemed to be fine. So again, you just don't know when that was going to happen. But certainly, I thought Indiana gave as good as they got. I mean, people kept talking about that Oklahoma was the better team. But again, I'm sorry, if you lose 3 times, then that team is pretty on par with you. And they had a chance to go up 3-1. I mean, they were up for 80% of. I mean, I know OKC gave up Game 1, but going into the middle of the fourth quarter of Game 4, Indiana was up and up fairly comfortably. They just couldn't, couldn't score. They only scored 17 points in the fourth quarter. Otherwise, we would have been talking about 3-1. And certainly they were, in the driver's seat. So I certainly think that I think they gave as good as they got. And, good to see the, again, the style of play, good defense, good, smart decision making. And so I was very entertained. But speaking of, certainly this idea of dynasties and whatnot, certainly my next point here is,
Brother Bennett,
the question.
really quick.
Yeah.
I have a question for both of y'all.
Sure.
Who has the second? Okay, real quick. San Antonio has the second pick, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
What do y'all believe their need is to fill?
I would say probably shooting guard, small forward.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to say shooting guard because I think Fox can play either one or two.
He played a point.
Okay, yeah, so it'll be shooting guard.
Okay. They think it's coming up soon. Okay.
Yeah, well, so I'm looking here. They say the best available is Dylan Harper, but the best fit is Ace Bailey, 6'8", 203. So, we're about to pick us in. So we're about to see in a second here who they go with. I'm not watching live. I'm just sort of refreshing ESPN. So if you guys see it before I do, you can sort of
I'm
call
seeing
it
it
out.
live, but you might get it before me. I'm just
Yeah,
watching.
yeah. But just getting into while we're waiting for this pick to come in, certainly, the talk of where is OKC? Do they have a dynasty and whatnot? I mean, is it time to put away the dynasty talk? Here you have during the David Stern era, in 30 years, you had 8 different champions in that 30 years. So the Celtics had a run, the Lakers had a run, multiple runs in that particular time. Detroit had a run, So again, this idea of putting multiple championships together, that was sort of the norm. You had a dominant team, that team got old or whatever, and then a new team kind of came in and took over. And so, that's there was kind of flip flopping between the Lakers and the Celtics. Sixers got in a couple times and whatnot. But in the last 12 years, we've had under this new leadership 9 different champions in 12 years, 7 straight years. We've had a different champion. So like every year we've been asking ourselves the questions: is what team going to be the next one? As you can see with San Antonio, then LA during the COVID year. Which I don't know what you guys think about the guy from OKC talking about, oh wow, fine, now I got a real one. So that was a bit of a little bit of a diss. I don't know if people are gonna appreciate that. He said
That was
he
Caruso.
got a real one. I don't think that went over too well with a lot of people. He's gonna get a talking to by somebody over that one. But again, then you had Milwaukee, Golden State came back, and then Denver. They were talking about they could certainly have it go on the run. Celtics last year, they were talking about, I was talking about, certainly they had it in them to win multiple. Now you have OKC, so that's 8 straight years with a different champion. So can we truly say that? And San Antonio, I believe they took Dylan Harper. So can we actually say that that OKC, even though they're young, they're deep, and they possibly win another one, especially with the recent moves that just happened in the NBA, which we'll talk about? Is it over? Have we achieved parity in the league, and that we're not going to see these long dynasties like the Bulls or the Celtics or the Lakers anymore? Is that period pretty much over? Just given recent history over the last 12 years, quite frankly, 10 champions in 13 years, actually. So, Coach, what are your thoughts on it? I know you were talking about can they make a run, but recent history is saying no. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Based off of this recent history, I don't think any of these teams had the complete roster as teams that had the dynasties. Teams that were really, going back to back doing the early, before when was the last time we had a back to back? Golden State. However, before that, it was quite a few years. But I don't think they had a complete roster. OKC has more of a complete roster in a sense. But again, an injury or two, they could be out of it. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I don't know if it's over. It might be. And what do we consider a dynasty? To win 3 in a row
Many
or
say
2 in a
3.
row?
Many
3.
say 3.
Okay, so
Or 3. Well, I would say
Like
3 and
3 and
4.
5 years.
I would say
Yeah,
3 and 4, 3 and
5
5.
years.
Yeah.
okay, so something like that. It'd be hard. No, I think that time will be over because now it's the money, and people are definitely going for the money. Well, if I'm a Caruso type of player and I have a mid-average contract, and then I win a championship, and the team is looking to offer me double the money, triple the money, most would probably say, "Okay, I'm gonna go." But you never know.
Yeah. Shawnee, what are your thoughts? Is the dynastic period over, and are we going to see parity every year with player movement and whatnot? What's your take on is OKC going into next year? Are they the favorites to repeat in your opinion?
Well, I think the main thing with the 7 straight years of different champions, because the teams that go on to win these titles, they can't really keep their team together. Major changes come the very next season. I think Boston had a chance, but then the injury to Tatum completely just altered their route. As you see, just immediately when this offseason started, changes were made on that organization. Only thing about OKC, because last year OKC was number one seed. They just got upset by the Mavs in 5. They still won like 60 plus games, I believe, last year. And they had a young team, young contracts. I think that their fork in the road is going to come when Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren's contract are time to re up, and that's when. Because I was hearing something. Because one thing about the Thunder, as you can see after their many times after they post game, they're very close. You see them, a lot of times if they're interviewing uh, them a player after a game, a lot of times you see them come around that player and they always playing around with each other while they're on the camera. Their local TV guy, they like to throw towels on him while they're getting interviewed, post game interviews. They're very close. So you would think I heard one like they're like with SGA when his contract is coming, he's gonna get the big money, big money. But because they so close that they may try to, hey, you know, if you could take a little bit less, we can keep this guy, keep this guy. And I really wouldn't put it past SGA to kind of take a little off the top to try to keep his teammates. So because of that, I mean, their core, because they're so young, they can stay together a while. And then they have so much first round draft picks on the table still that if they lose a player like say Lou Dort, one, you got Casey Wallace you could put in his spot and continue to do work. But they can just backfield and obviously they draft very well. So they have all these first round picks. So the system that Sam Presti has that up there, or I say up there because they just 3 hours above me. They That's the only thing I could say. Okay, it may not be the traditional dynasty as far as 3 and 4 or 5 seasons, but they may get 2 and 4, something like that, just because the way they are right now. That's the team how you going. If you're an NBA team, that's the team how you model. Like everybody can't be OKC because you can't stockpile first round picks like that. That's just how they you know. But they have a very good GM, very well scouting of talent. They have a young core, so the writing is there. I don't know about the 3 and 5 years or something. 'Cause that's extremely hard to do because you can see in Boston, all it takes is one injury, and that could change your fate. And especially the way I don't know if we're going to talk about it later, but the way how one particular injury just keeps happening, it's just like a ticking time bomb.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think they have a chance to win 2 and at least 4, and that may be the new dynasty because it's this 3 plus. I don't know if you can see that.
Well, speaking of that, let's. Well, I want to ask a question since he brought it up. Shout out to Anton, Jersey stand up. Shout out to him. I want to adjust your mic just a little bit if you can turn it up a bit, Shawnee. But he asked a question. Now he put it out there 3 and 5. Now, do we want to consider that a dynasty, especially if you don't repeat? So, for example, go back in fairly recent history. San Antonio Spurs won in '99. Then they won in 2002, 2003, and then the 04-05 season. So that's 3 and 5. But I don't hear anyone ever talking about San Antonio in that iteration. And then they won later on. When they got Kawhi and whatnot, they won again. But are we willing to call that early 2000 San Antonio team a dynasty? I think, for dynasty, I think you have to have at least one repeat, at least me personally. But what's your thoughts on that? Does 3 and 5 spread out every other year or every couple years, does that count as a dynasty in your view?
Yeah, I can say that. If we use that as a measure, 3 and 5, then you take any championship team and from the time they won the first one to the next 5 years, you can measure it up. Mm-hmm. Jordan, of course, there's only been few that have won back to back or back to back. It's only been a few, maybe 8 teams in the history of the NBA. So, so yeah, I think 3 and 5 could be a good measure.
Right. Now shout out to Tommy. Shout out to Tommy B. Now he's saying dynasty is bare minimum 4 and 5 or 6 with a back to back. So his criteria is a bit more strict when it comes to choosing dynasties. And he also puts with the same core players.
He ain't seen no dynasty then. Tommy ain't seen no dynasty.
So well, I guess that's the question. Is that worthy of a dynasty discussion? Even if you win a back to back, but you don't do it. Let's say if that's the only back to back you have. So I know the Lakers, 08 and 09 and 010, they won back to back with the Lakers and Kobe. That his last championship. We wouldn't call that a dynasty either, even though they won a back to back. Or same thing with the Pistons. When they won back in 90 and 91, will we consider that a dynasty because they won back to back, even though they went to three straight finals. The first year Isaiah got hurt with his foot and everything and his ankle. But Shawnee, what's your take on that? So again, we have Anton saying 3 and 5. So I'll point out the Spurs who did it basically 3 and 5. Tommy's saying no, it's got to be like 4 and 6, and you got to have a back to back there. So where do you stand on so even going back? So I know we're talking about today what a dynasty might look like, but even if you go back 20 years, would you consider that 99 to 03 Spurs a dynasty?
Can y'all hear me better now?
Yeah, I think you sound better now. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah. That Spurs. Yeah, that was definitely a dynasty. I think they had like 2 parts because they looked like a dynasty even when the Heat beat them that one year. It was just a clutch 3-pointer by Allen. They could have been a dynasty then. Just that whole era of the Spurs, basically, they was basically a dynasty the whole time they had Tim Duncan. It was basically
Shawnee, you stretching it, Shawnee. You stretching it.
Nah, it's like my Astros. Like you literally have to go through the Astros to get to the World Series. You literally had to go through the Spurs to get to the finals. Like if they didn't make the finals, or the team that beat them usually went on to the finals, and ultimately, if they was able to beat the Spurs, they ultimately went on to win. Like you saw that with the Mavericks. You saw that with the Lakers. Like you had to go through San Antonio to get to the finals, and then, a lot of times them teams went on to win it. So that Spurs team during the whole Duncan, that's why he ended up winning 5 titles. But he was always there. He could have got more. He was always there. You have to have your A+ game to get by.
Well, you're not. Obviously, you're not going to count. I mean, they won in 06, 07, then they won again in 14. And again, they could have won in 13 against the Heat, but again, we know how that when Ray Allen hits the shot and whatnot, and that changed the course of the series. But that first one though, and again, he won that first. I think David Robinson. And when didn't he retire? Yeah. So I don't know. This one is a little specious to me. Like I said, I think a back to back or 3 and 5 or 4. I'm kind of leaning more with Tommy with this. If you want to talk about dynasties, so that's the Celtics dynasties from the 60s, or certainly you had the Lakers in the 80s. I think you got to do a little bit more. But certainly understanding just the state of the game, you can't keep necessarily your core team together the way it used to. And we all saw what happened when we talked about this last week. We all saw when people started trying to build super teams and how that didn't work. And now teams are starting to adopt this again, have a deep roster, whatnot, more team ball, more spreading things around. So, again, I certainly would accept that today's definition of a dynasty may have to change. But that early Spurs team, I'm a little, and I'm a little. I'm not ready to. I'm not ready to baptize those guys with a dynasty.
What did I mention before? Like, you know, it don't have to be back to back to back. Nobody hasn't done that since the Bulls. But I was saying at least 3 and 5 years.
But can you repeat one time though?
He can, but 3 then 5. I think.
Yeah, but that 2003, 2005, 2007.
No, I'm going back to 99. I said so. They won the first in 99.
Yeah.
Then they won in 2002, 2003, 4 years later. Then in 05. So again, they skipped a year because Detroit won in 04, and then they won again in 07. So which cluster then do you want to take then? Because that's you can count the 2002 to 2007 as 2 and 5, or you can count the 99 to 2005. Which one you counting?
I'll take the second one, I guess, if you put it on that one, because I don't want to consider the 99 as a dynasty, because that was basically David Robinson's end, and then Tim Duncan. That was his rookie season. Then when it was fully Tim Duncan, and then that's when they got Ginobili and Parker, and that is the dynasty. 99 is just okay. You know, the world was introduced to Duncan because he obviously, you know, that was in David Robinson's swan song. Because I think he retired in 99, but yeah, the world was introduced to Tim Duncan. But afterwards, when the Spurs that we think about during the Tim Duncan era, that was Duncan, Ginobili, Parker, and some other key players. That was, you know, that's the one I'm looking at. So that 2003 to 7 is the dynasty I'm looking at. They just had one prior to that in 99.
Mm-hmm.
But those 3 titles is a dynasty. And again, I think if you look at their records and the season they had in between those years, I know they're not back to back, but they was knocking on the door. You had to go through them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's but they still fit that 3 titles in 5-year span. So that's why I consider them a dynasty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tommy B, let me know if you want to come up and chop it up with us regarding that. I could drop the link in the chat. Hopefully you can see it. If you want to come up and chop it up with us a little bit on this. But I think that's a good discussion, because I don't think we've ever really talked about that Spurs quote unquote dynasty, certainly from 02 to 07. But I think it's an interesting topic though. So if you want to come up, just let me know in the chat, and I'll drop the link to you. But going back to the OKC series, so again, good series overall, but unfortunately, we had this Achilles injury, and this has certainly had plagued the entire playoffs, if not the year. So again, Halliburton was the last to go down, Jason Tatum, Damian Lillard, and so a lot of guys were bitten by the Achilles bug. We all remember when KD got injured in the finals back in, I think it was back in 2000. What was that 2021 season that happened? He was with the Golden State.
Golden State, I think it was.
Was it? It might have been 19 actually. It might have been 2019. But in any event, so again, this has certainly been a problem. Young guys, I know Dame is probably the oldest guy on this list here, but certainly you hate to see it. These guys are early now. Again, thankfully, with medical technology where it is now, guys are certainly been able to recover. We've seen the career that Kevin Durant has had since he had his a few years ago. Now you can debate, is he still the same player than he was when he won back-to-back with Golden State? Did he ever get back to that level of play? That's debatable. Whether or not, is he 90%, 85% of the player that he was back then? We can certainly debate that. But certainly hope for all these guys, especially my team with my Celtics, hopefully those guys can certainly get it back to get back and be fully healthy. But what do you guys think that's going on with these injuries? Now, some guy made a conspiracy video on I saw earlier. It's like all these guys wearing zeros. He's like, the fact that they're wearing zero is the reason why these injuries are happening. I don't know if it's that. Now, look, I know these guys get taped up and whatnot before games, and I know right now nobody wears high top basketball sneakers anymore. I don't know, Coach. I don't remember this many Achilles injuries back in the 80s and whatnot when guys wore the high top Converses or whatever, or even the Air Jordans and whatnot. But everyone's wearing these low ankle shoes. And I noted, but again, they get taped up before games and whatnot. But certainly these things are certainly, especially when it's happening to arguably the biggest stars in the game. We're talking about who's going to take care of the game forward. It's going to be difficult to do when your top players are getting these injuries. And, so do you think is there a pattern that we're seeing here? Do you blame it on anything in particular? Is the season too long? Maybe we should go. I know there's talk about dropping the seasons from 82 games down to 70, 75. So what do you think is the reason for this recent spur of Achilles injuries, where these guys are supposed to have better health, better condition, and fitness and whatnot? But again, I just don't remember this rash of injuries to star players back then. I think a knee injury might have took you out back in the day, like an ACL. But even that is not as devastating as an Achilles, at least these days. So what's your thoughts on the rash of injuries that have sidelined a lot of guys? And what do you think? Is there anything that could be done about it? I got to put this up. My man says soft.
Appreciate you.
So I don't know. I don't know if we want to call it that, but Coach, what's your view on these injuries, and what do you think? Can anything be done about it?
Well, my conspiracy theory that I'm gonna throw in, right? All these guys are unmarried, so you outside playing too much and putting stress.
Dame's married?
But
I thought Dame was married. And Halliburton's married, right?
It's just unfortunate that this happens. I was thinking about it could be the sneaker issue, wearing low cut tape. Although it gives you security, it sort of restricts you, the movement in a sense, and it could be just the pressure. I don't know, man. They got to get more leg strength. I believe in having stronger legs and flexibility. One of the big things that I always push is flexibility, doing certain exercise, stretching exercise with all your joints. Just something I learned, man, when I was in the military. I believe in that, and it prevents injury. But, you playing on concrete, you never know, man.
That's the thing. You didn't have these when we played on hard top. You didn't have all these Achilles.
Nobody blowing their injuries. Like my man said, the players are a little softer today. They made a little bit more charming.
Look, I may say, certainly some of these trainers. Again, I'm kind of old school. Squats, deadlift, presses. I think for the most part, and then everything else is just working on your skill. You see a lot of these guys. They're doing bands and all kinds of stuff. One arm, the kettlebells and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, whatever happened to guy, get on the squat rack and squat 315. I mean, I don't know, but Shawnee, what's your thoughts on this? And if something can be done about it, or are the guys just soft? I mean, is that simply something that has some validity in these games? I see the chat already chiming in on this as well.
They're not soft, but they are overworked because a lot of this
Oh no, they overwork. Come on, son.
No, because this injury used to be an injury for like Kobe, mid-30 though. This is like towards players towards the end of the downside of their career. Many of these names are on their prime and they mid-20s. And I'm talking about they overwork because a lot of them, they bodies have a lot of mileage on them because a lot of them played, which I heard, AAU ball. They play a whole lot more basketball than dudes back in the past. I mean, so you don't know what type of mileage they come into the league. And so basically, and it's just a combination thing because the NBA, I think now they're going to start taking it a whole lot more serious. But they didn't. It's not. I don't want to say they was ignoring it, but it definitely didn't come with the okay. You sit down until we get this. When they had it, because a lot of these Achilles, their precursor was a calf strain, and if you remember, Luka had a calf strain with the Mavericks, and he sat out nearly 6 weeks. And I remember the Mavericks was getting frustrated with him because it's just a calf strain. Why you sitting out so long? Of course, Luka knew his body, and if Luka would have kept playing, it's a pretty good chance that Luka would have been on this list. And afterwards, before all these names started getting injured, after they traded Luka, the Mavericks actually went and fired that whole training staff. So I think now NBA is going to take it serious. Calf strain basically is a precursor to Achilles tear. You can't, cause they connected. You can feel it. It's like you get a calf strain, that Achilles like, okay, it's on me now, and I can't handle this workload. And next because you could clearly see it in Halliburton, the way it just popped. It's like it gave up. It can't handle all of that. Only thing about with Halliburton, it was just weird because he played the game before. Because the thing about around the talk was about Halliburton, they was wondering if he's gonna sit out in Game 6, but he played, and he looked pretty decent.
Yeah, I thought so too.
So it's like, okay, you gonna play in Game 7? You already had and I don't think he had a minutes restriction in Game 6. So it just helped that they went to blew out OKC. So okay, you can go sit down now because we blowing them out. But yeah, so you're like, oh, okay, he went through the initial fire, and the fact that this happened so early, and it wasn't on like an explosive play. He was just trying to make a drive, I think, off of a head fake or whatnot. And as soon as he planted that foot in the ground, it popped on him.
Yeah, and it was immediate. Yeah, it was hard to. I mean, all of these are hard to watch. Even when KD's got, it's just hard to watch when it happens. And they said they knew it right away.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say they soft though. I just think they play these dudes.
Now, Tatum and Hellenberg, they were on the Olympic team, so their bodies were.
Yeah, now both of them didn't play as much. Halliburton, I don't think.
But still,
Tatum barely played.
Practice though,
but you're still practicing though. You're still putting that. You gotta have
go
that.
home and I guess recuperate like many other players did. But yeah, I don't think they saw. I just think they have a lot more mileage on their bodies coming into the league now, and unfortunately, these dudes are like ticking time bombs. They body.
Yeah, I don't know. We got load management being the way it is. Exactly. I don't know if it's weird, but anyway, let's welcome Tommy B in the building. Also, make sure you follow Tommy B on Tommy B Reacts TV. He's always got some good content on there. Welcome aboard, brother. So first things first, if we want to go back in time, revisit the dynasty discussion. So I know you had a pretty high criteria on what a dynasty means to you. 4 and 6, 4 and 5, or 4 and 6 with a repeat. So would you call the Spurs either from 99 to 05 or from 03 to 05, whatever combination, is that a dynasty in your view? And if not, why? And then we can get into the finals discussion, especially with these Achilles injuries that are happening. But again, welcome aboard.
I would have to remember how many times they made the finals in that because making the finals is part of it too. Because like when you got the Warriors, they went from 2015 to 2019, they made the finals. 2 years off and then went back again and won it. But again, a dynasty is supposed to be something hard, nearly impossible. So we can't just double back because we want to make teams dynasties and go, oh no, we're gonna make it this now. No, it's supposed to be some shit that you rarely see. It's supposed to be one of them feats that's just rarely done. It's not one of them feats that, this team did good, so let's label them that. Like, it's supposed to be something that's extremely difficult to do. Kobe and Shaq can put that together. You know what I'm saying? So it's supposed to be something where you got a mix of luck, you got a mix of good core players that were able to stay together, great coaching, you know what I'm saying? Like, and you're dominating. And I think when you start moving it to, because not to say that like 3 and 4 years is like an easy feat, and
So Tommy,
even in the 3 and 4 years, because in 3 and 4 years you do have a back to back in there. If they have a finals loss in there to split up that, say they won back to back finals loss and then won the third one, then I would say that's a dynasty because that's a whole 4 years where you pretty much dominated your conference and then you just happen to lose one final. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. But you would count the Lakers from 99 to 002. That's 3 in a row. That's a three-peat as a dynasty. You would say that.
I would probably put them up there.
Of course, he gonna put the
Yeah,
Lakers
three.
up,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah.
So that was my
Whoa, Coach Fur.
that was my
I hate
question.
the Lakers.
But that was my
Fuck with
question,
the
though.
Lakers.
Here's my question, though, right? Because we're talking about an era of time. We're not talking about the entire. Because if you're looking at
Yeah.
dynasties, there's only been one dynasty. That was the Boston Celtics with Bill Russell winning 10 in a row. That's a dynasty. But in a period of time, just as like the Rockets, you can say, but then any team, maybe 5 years. That's why we said 5-year span. How many? What in the last?
Why would you
years?
say the Celtics was the only dynasty? Like, I'm asking, like, is the actual
Because that's
criteria what they
that's
did,
a
or?
but that's a feat that never would be accomplished again.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? As
But
far as the
okay,
greatest,
but I could say I don't know if what the Warriors did would be accomplished again.
but
Like,
that's
them
what I'm
was
saying.
4 and
But that's
7.
what
They
I'm
went
saying.
to pretty
So
much 5 straight.
would they be considered a dynasty in that period over that 5, 7, 10-year span? And that could be anybody's championship.
I think I think what I would have to say is a dynasty is you would have to dominate the better part of a decade.
A decade. Dang,
Yeah.
Tommy, man.
No. But when I'm saying that, I'm not necessarily saying like you got to be in the chip 10 straight years. What I'm saying is you have to be a dominant like, okay, if you look at the Warriors from 2015 to 2022, they pretty much was calling it the Warriors Invitational.
Mhm.
Like they would pretty much was in the chip so much that it was pretty much called the Warriors Invitational.
Mhm.
But if you're
But would you call Miami Heat a dynasty?
what Miami Heat?
When they went 4 years and won 2 with LeBron?
They could
The
have
only
been.
reason why, well, no,
They
the
could
only
have
reason why I
been, but
say is because I
that
don't think
first
you
one
could be a
screwed them
I
over.
don't think you could be a dynasty if you got a even or losing record.
No, but what I'm saying is, you at the top, whether you win the championship or not, you
Yeah,
going in that period of time. See,
yeah,
Miami
but
went 4 years in a row.
no, I
So,
agree with you. But those championships matter in a dynasty because
so
without,
it only
because put it
counts
like
as
this, Coach Ferd,
championship, right?
no
Right,
championships, no dynasty.
right,
So
right.
so
So
that
in a
is the
period
actual
of
part.
time,
So
Yeah.
when you break even,
Otherwise,
it kinda
Cleveland
messes-
Cavaliers all those years LeBron was getting would have
or
been a touchdown.
9 straight
what's his name? Jerry West went 9 years straight, won one chip.
Yeah.
Can't call that the dynasty.
No,
He
you
won
can't.
one chip.
No, you can't. But to your
So
point, like even going back to the 80s, okay, Celtics and Lakers basically own the 80s. Yeah, I think
yeah, for
Philly got
sure.
in
Yeah.
for a year, and again, I think the Pistons they got in like towards the end of the decade. But it was either the Celtics or the Lakers for a decade.
Yeah.
So to your point about as far as dominance, certainly those guys in Lakers, had 5 to the Celtics 3 in that span. But yeah, it was those guys just constantly
Like
battling at
when
it.
it
So,
gets to a point at the beginning of the season, you're basically going, who's going to play them in the chip? You're probably in the middle of a dynasty.
gotcha.
Miami could have been a dynasty, but their sandwich, their bookends was the thing that of course they went to 4 straight finals, but they lost the first one to they as the favorite.
Underachieved, yeah. Should have
The
won.
last one, they weren't the favorite in San Antonio. Plus, they had an injury, but they lost in 5. So they bookends is what basically kicked them out the dynasty talk, even though they went to 4 straight. But that first one they lost was a big one. The last one, maybe you could have, that first one, they would have won that first one. They would have won 3 straight. They go their dynasty right there. It was a short one. It was like, as long as they were together, it was only 4 years. That's their potential dynasty window. Then it was gone. But, they had a chance to could have there, but their bookend didn't work.
First of all, I want to give a shout out to my guys from Rutgers. So again, Dylan Harper went number 2, Ace Bailey went number 5. First time in school history they had 2 players in the top 5 from Rutgers University. You got to go back to Phil Sells, those guys from 76, 77 for you last time you had that. So shout out to RU for getting 2 guys in the top 5 on that. But Tommy, to the next point, we were talking about the dynasty. Do you think that just based on what we've seen over the last 7 years, do you think the dynasty era is over? Given how teams are constructed, we've had seven straight different champions. No one's repeated in that time. So
I'm not gonna lie to you, and I don't like it. Y'all better start watching out for them Spurs, bro. That they about to be ridiculous, dog. They got man. That it's about to get ugly down there.
yeah,
It is so. I would say yeah, but looking at the Spurs, I could if they cultivate that team right, I could see them. I mean, Wemby looked like he's just about to be ridiculous as a player.
yeah.
Um, that's
They
why I'm
won't have Pop
laughing,
though,
bro.
so I don't know. Are you sold on this coach though?
Well,
If Pop was in his prime, then I was like maybe, but
Papa's still gonna be around like Pat Riley. So whoever's coaching gonna be coaching, but they gonna be a puppet
mm,
at least for the first couple of years, like Eric Spoelstra was. But uh, outside of that, I think it's gonna be. I think it's. I mean, man, you got Minnesota, you got Oklahoma, uh, you got San Antonio. Um, Denver still ain't went nowhere.
yeah,
So that's just out the West,
right.
where we can't solidly say at the beginning of the season who gonna represent the West.
Right.
Then in the East, it's just I mean you got the Cavs, the Pacers, the Celtics. Even
Yeah,
Washington
and
don't
we're
look
talking about
bad.
just repeating. We're not talking about by your definition of dynasty.
Yeah,
Is anybody going to own half the
yeah.
decade, five
I don't.
finals, and
The
win
only
three or something?
thing,
I don't know.
the only thing I can see, Mr. Bennett, is if Wemby turns into the player that he looks like he's going to end up being,
hmm
it could get ugly for the whole NBA.
Yeah,
It could get ugly.
yeah, for sure, for
I
sure.
mean, he's
Well,
dominating on defense and offense.
yeah,
That gonna be
gotcha.
scary.
Yeah, it would definitely. But let's look at some of the movements. So again, you mentioned some of the teams. Do we have to put Houston in this mix? Obviously,
Hold
they
on,
have a
Mr.
great.
Bennett.
They
I
have
was gonna
a.
say something about the injury thing too.
Oh, go for it. Go. My bad. Go for it.
Perfect example, bro. Because when somebody in the comments goes, I wouldn't say more athletic. Please show me somebody in the fucking 90s or 80s that moved like Wemby at 7 foot. I'll fucking wait. Like, what is wrong with people, bro? The fucking point guards came up the floor posting you up backwards. Whatever, it's like people our age are just punch drunk or something. That's not even a question of whether it's more athletic. If you're saying it's not, you're blind.
Mhm.
It's not even a question, bro. We got 7 footers out here moving like fucking point guards, better than point guards than when we grew up. And people are, oh, I wouldn't say more athletic. Yeah, 100% is more athletic. And then
Mhm.
with the three thing, they scientifically have shown they're moving way more miles on the court than they did back in the day. So now you're moving more miles, you're moving at a faster pace, and you're more explosive,
Mhm.
which none of that can be disputed. That's a fact. All of that is happening right now.
Mhm.
So a lot of people want to blame it on the low tops. This is my thing, bro. You got billionaire owners.
Well,
Do you really?
is it a would it be a factor though? Because again, back in the day,
No.
everyone played in high tops. So
Okay.
you don't think it's a factor at all?
Understand this, Mr. Bennett. Joe Schmoes aren't making these shoes.
Right.
Scientists are. These are billionaire owners. They're not going to risk their million and billionaire assets over some shoes, bro. You get what I'm saying? Like at a certain point, some of this stuff just becomes common sense. And I get that when we grew up, oh, you'll roll your ankle if you don't wear no mids. Well, that was debunked. But for
Mhm.
us, it's hard to accept because that was law for us. I grew up in that era
Mhm.
where if you wore low tops, people would look at you like you crazy because you're going to roll your ankle.
Mhm.
It was debunked. Period. Point blank. There is no argument there. So if you're from my era, sorry, eat it. It was debunked from scientists. So if you want to go argue with a scientist, then go argue with them.
Mhm.
But that's the problem with the internet is a nigga that work at 7-Eleven no more than a scientist.
Yeah, I think I heard
So
some
so
NBA players. They said they wasn't blaming it on the low tops.
No,
Yeah.
Gilbert Arenas is the one that started it, and the way that he started wearing low tops is he went to the people and he asked them about it. And when they did the research, they said, "Nah, you should be good." Gilbert Arenas is the one that started it. Show me his Achilles injury,
Mhm.
and he was one. And he one of the ones that started the explosive point guard, the scoring point guard thing.
Mhm.
So it is again. It's
But
I,
but who's to say the scientists are not paid by the NBA either? Because it's all to make money.
okay.
But
So
again,
now you're going to
they,
tell me that the
they,
NBA is paying to get their best players injured.
no, the shoe. They're
No,
gonna
listen
sell
to what
the
I'm saying,
shoe.
Coach Ferg. They're paying scientists to let them wear these shoes that are getting their best players injured.
No, but the scientists can study and this right in the report what it is. It has nothing, no reflection on the shoe has no reflection on the player's Achilles. But what I'm saying is it can go both ways because you've seen history where wearing high tops there were very few Achilles injuries. Maybe a knee. Your knee
Coach
gave out
Ferg,
before your Achilles.
Coach Ferg,
But over the last
they
25
threw the
years,
ball in the
since
box
every
and you
listen, over the
bang, bang,
listen,
and you threw the ball
listen,
up.
for you little calf dudes, the best thing to prevent your Achilles from going bad is your having a building up your calf muscle. But if you ain't got no calf, like you see, these players' calves are sort of slim. You don't have the support, so your Achilles could tear. Build up your calf muscles, and then you won't have no tear, whether you're wearing high top or low top. Or you guys like to wear slides, so y'all slide y'all ass. Yeah, I'm done.
Well, you talking about basketball players. A sport would dictate how a player would train their bodies. So,
100%. Yeah.
basketball players, they have more elongated muscles. They're not going to have like the calf muscles on. Some it could be more cut up than others, but it's just a different training thing. So I don't know if they will
Yeah,
have.
I admit, like I said, I'm a little old school with the training. I think they need to go, instead of using the bands and the stretch stuff and the bounce balls and stuff, a little more hard, more make the body a bit more rigid. But
Michael Jordan had calf
but
muscle.
Tommy, then what would you think? Given the athletes are definitely more athletic and whatnot, how can the NBA counter this? Especially when it's, again, you got Tatum and you got Halliburton, two of your young stars in the league, supposed to be the future of the league, and now these guys are out. So is there anything that can be done? Maybe shorten the season.
I,
What do you think of some things that could be done to help to lessen the risk of these injuries? So can it be helped at this point?
It's kind of the same problem that the NFL had, right? Everybody want to be quick to say, "Oh, they soft, they soft," but you got linebackers that's running faster 40s than they've ever ran before.
But the linebackers are smaller. Keeping that in
Mm,
mind too.
no,
Back in the day,
absolutely,
10 years
but
ago, guys were 250, 260. Now they're 235 and
absolutely,
you're
but
playing
if you're
linebacker.
260 and you're running 5 miles an hour, and now you're 230 and you're running 15 miles an hour, that's a hell of a difference. You got DNs running 4.5s in a 40.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm
But
just
I'm
saying,
saying the
naturally,
reason why the guys are faster is because they're smaller. That's the point I'm making. When the average, back 15 years ago, the average linebacker was like 250, 260. You were playing
mm,
linebacker. Now they're 230, 235 playing linebacker. So you have smaller guys, therefore faster guys playing the same position.
no, but I'm saying even if you got some of these guys that are that same size, they're still running faster. Like Miles Garrett ain't a small guy to nobody. I don't care what area you put it in there. And that man is doing 360 dunks, and I don't know what his 40 is, but
It's not
like he
4-5 though.
no, it ain't no,
About
it ain't
four,
4 or 5.
five,
But
four,
I'm just
six.
saying, but what I'm saying is, you know what I'm saying? Like it's a significant difference from what we grew up watching. So that's
Hmm.
why I say, like, when we talk about the high top days, I grew up in that. So I know exactly what y'all talking about. And you know what
Hmm.
Gary Payton did? He came it out of court, he gave his back to his defender, and he scooted.
Hmm.
He wasn't crossing. Tim Hardaway, who we look at his crossover right now and say that shit was weak as hell,
Hmm.
had the hardest crossover back in the day.
Yeah.
And all he did was went left to right.
Hmm.
You get what I'm saying? So when you got guys like, Steph, who's running what 2 miles a game, I think, just from how he operates.
Hmm.
You got Kyrie, who, he doing his thing, how he do it. You got Kevin Durant, who's 7 foot and is literally handling the ball better than the point guards that we grew up on.
Hmm.
Like you almost dealing with completely, like, don't get it messed up. If you take them old athletes and put it, they pulling hamstrings and all that shit. They wasn't running the way that they running now. You see what I'm saying? So
it's
I
no,
think
it's
that's
a
the part that people are
generational
missing.
thing. Like
No,
Yeah.
100%.
like
Because let's
the
not
the
forget.
players in the '80s were better athletes than the players of the '60s. Players in the '90s were better athletes than the players
But
in the
but here's
'70s.
the biggest divide though, Shawnee. You leave the 90s into the 2000s, you got niggas in the 80s and the 90s smoking cigarettes. They taking drink. They not taking care of their bodies the way that
Oh
these dudes
yeah,
do these days.
Larry
It's a
Bird was
complete
like the
difference.
worst. Yeah, drinking
Yeah.
beers and smoking cigarettes. That was like the norm
Mr.
after
Bennett,
a
I'm
game.
a Raider fan. They tell tales about what happened at that Super Bowl in New
Yeah,
Orleans before.
yeah,
These niggas was in there playing hungover.
yeah,
So if you put them, the reason why Michael Jordan was slicing and dicing so early in his career, because he was playing against niggas that was on coke
yeah.
during the
He,
game.
he said that. I remember
Like,
doing his documentary. Yeah, he was talking about
yeah.
how the guys be
So
hungover for a game.
you saw Michael Jordan, a player with the mentality of the players these days, as far as like taking care of his body and his outlook on the game, versus the players that we all champion as, oh, they this, they that. And a lot of these niggas was drunks and drug addicts.
Mhm.
It's just what it was.
Yeah,
So then to say, oh, these players couldn't play back, these players would mop them players back in the day because they didn't even take the game as serious as they do these days.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? But and so I just think that these players, then I don't know if you say that they just went so extreme as far as on the training that they've almost got to a point to where it's almost like it's like they're overtraining for what their body is built almost.
yeah. That
It's
I
what
can
it's
certainly
seeming
see
like.
because again, you used
Yeah.
to have there was a thing called an off season, right?
Yeah.
You would take 2-3 months off, wouldn't do anything, and you would get in shape in training camp. Now it's like
Yeah.
they want you in playing shape once you get to camp. So whatever
No,
happened, you gave you.
but you know what, Mr. Bennett, I won't even say that. These guys love hoop. They hoop all year round. They go to the
Which goes back to my AAU thing. I
to the
mean, they a
Drew.
lot of mouth in their
All like
body.
they love hoop. So
Mhm.
this is the funny part that what people don't admit is when we grew up in the off season, niggas is smoking cigarettes, niggas smoking cigars, niggas is
Who
drinking,
did
niggas
that
is
Yeah,
shit?
you put
whatever.
20. Yeah, put 20. You came in. They said they had a limit. No, don't come to camp no
Stop,
more than
Mr. Bennett.
15 pounds over.
What did you just say, Coach Ferg?
I said I ain't smoking no cigars or cigarettes. You smoke
Coach
them? I
Ferg,
don't see them.
go watch the Jordan documentary again and educate yourself on when you was growing up.
No,
This
yeah,
nigga,
I
it was
mean,
wild. But what I'm
well,
saying is, compared to these days, the
I
worst thing
compared it to
we
me.
was
I
doing
compared
is
it to me playing sports. I was like, I wasn't doing it.
no. But I'm saying, according to these, I mean, these days, these dudes, the worst that they doing is smoking
Yeah,
weed,
yeah. A
and
lot of
they
them had
hooping
regular
year
lives.
round.
Yeah, a lot of them had regular lives. You know, the NBA they realized that. And yeah, I would say talent for talent, talent for talent. If I could have everybody at the equal looking at the talent, I would definitely take. Let me see. I'm gonna go back as far as 88, 89, and put the team together, and we're gonna mop these 2000s players. We're gonna mop them.
I'm not getting into the generation. That's gonna be a battle. And Tommy B's already offended all those players from the 50s and 60s. So that NBA 50 team, 75 team, they're already upset at Tommy for saying that. So, but we're not gonna resolve that today.
Hey, real quick, Mr. Bennett.
Yeah.
I know we spoke about this in the past. So lately, you know, NBA draft has been, especially early in the draft, they was getting hit with a lot of foreign players, like players actually playing overseas. And I was just noticing all the players so far been picked have been
they're all from college programs.
The only one that you could put an asterisk by was the latest one, who was picked by Brooklyn, Igor Demin. He's Russian born, but he played at BYU. So you know that's the asterisk. But I just noticed,
but as far as the guys coming directly from the EuroLeague or coming from one of those not even college programs, them travel basketball programs, that was a trend for the last few years. But yeah, everyone here
right now
seems like they've been associated with the university.
Yeah, so I was just noticing that. I was like,
gotcha.
I don't see a lot of international players so far, and that was the thing.
Yeah, last year it was like the top 6 players that were all foreign players coming from foreign leagues. So, but let's get into certainly the obviously the big from this week, the big headline: Kevin Durant traded to the Houston Rockets for Jalen Green, Dillon Brooks, 2025 number 10 pick and 5 second round picks. We talked about this last week. It's like NBA, they don't care about picks no more. You got like middle tier players getting 4 first-round picks and all this kind of stuff. So I mean, Kevin Durant, I can certainly see you giving up some picks for. Some of these other guys, like the guy who plays for the Knicks and whatnot, Bridges and whatnot, I don't see what the value is, why they're giving all these picks away like that. But nevertheless, he's with Houston. Houston had certainly a good coach in Ime Udoka. They had, they showed some promise in the playoffs, although they couldn't get consistent scoring. KD is still a 25 and nearly 10 player every night. And, so certainly he's got, I think certainly he can increase their force, even though it didn't work out for him in Phoenix. So since Shawnee, you're the Houston, the Texas native here, what are your thoughts on the trade, and where do you think this places Houston in this mix of who could possibly challenge OKC or Denver or Minnesota or any of those top seeds this year? Does this elevate, in your view, Houston to a potential threat coming out of the West?
I think it was a good trade. And, when the trade first happened, I'm in a sports group, and a lot of people in there, mainly Texas-based, especially Houston, and many of them complaining about, the Rockets gave up too much, mainly because of 5 second-round picks. Pretty much in the NBA, especially in today's NBA, it's very rarely, and everybody's not Jokic, second round, and also he became multi MVP, arguably the best player in the NBA currently. But a lot of second round picks, they don't even make the roster for the most part. And with the Rockets, they are currently going to be a team where a lot of them not going to be like Dallas, who was in the play-in and then just lucked up. They get the number 1 overall pick, from the draft lottery. They pretty much, if you make the playoffs, you're going to be finishing so low in the draft that it's going to be hard for you to pick, unless you just got a hellified scouting staff, to pick like quality players who's going to make a dent in your roster. If your team is performing that well, you want a player that can contribute as early as they can. You get a player like that, you have to, development, and sometimes you don't have that time frame for that. So I think it was a good trade. I mentioned my stance on Jalen Green. Jalen Green, he was drafted by the Rockets in 2020. Basically the same thing that he was when we drafted him. He was always a great athlete. He could do stuff like that, but he's still basically the same player. He's inconsistent. He's streaky. So you're like, okay, what have you done to work on your game? And make those mistakes about it. The way that the playoff ended this past season is the reason why Jalen Green was traded.
Yeah, very inconsistent scoring-wise, yeah.
It wasn't because he had like a rough game scoring, even though he finished 5 of the 7 in single digits. It's because if you watch him, the dude was completely out of his element. He was not. Only thing he was just really trying to do was just throw up 3-pointers, trying to depend on that streakiness he has. When he was dribbling, he was mishandling the ball. He was taking himself kind of out the offense, just stand on the 3-point line. So all of this, you watching him, and he's supposed to be the best player on the team. It's supposed to be him and Şengün, but Jalen Green was supposed to be option number 1.
Mm-hmm.
And he completely just like, okay, dude, that moment was way too big for him. So you just happen to come into an off season where you had a chance of getting. I know everybody's talking about Durant 37, but Durant was 37, still averaging 27 points. So him and Green, okay, swap each other. Now the Dillon Brooks addition, I like Brooks when he was with the Rockets because he changed that culture. Because look at Memphis, they really haven't been the same since Brooks left. So Brooks' mindset is something to it. He can build a team. So that's going to be a loss. But they have, they kept Jabari Smith, and they have their pieces. And finally, I believe the Rockets made a trade with the Brooklyn Nets when they traded James Harden. And Phoenix was trying to get those draft picks back. The Rockets did not give them back to Phoenix. That's what a second. They gave up the 10th overall this year, which they're about to. I think Toronto's about to pick now, and Houston will be on the clock, but that's going to Phoenix.
Yeah, Toronto
And
just picked. That's Colin
yeah,
Murray Bowles. So Houston's on the clock
so
with that team pick.
that Houston, this pick is going to Phoenix, and then the 5 second rounds. But those picks that they received that Phoenix was trying to get when they originally traded for Durant, Rockets still have. So a lot of the Rockets fans down here want to overreact and complain about the 5 second round picks. Well, they still have those first round picks that they traded from Brooklyn. So I was saying, I made a meme about it. I'm like, the Rockets GM, Raphael Stone, I said, he's over there cooking in the 5-star kitchen when boys complaining about he traded away chicken nuggets. So I'm like, dude, why y'all complaining? He's still working and he's building a hellified roster and he still have those high classified picks. So, they are in a good situation. They got a player now who can come in because that was the main thing about the offense. The Rockets defense, their running ability, they was just like OKC. Their thing is they didn't have the offense, and that's what ultimately, let them how they lost to Golden State in 7. If they would have had an offense, it would have been a different series. But if they would have had Jalen Green, then we would probably been talking to a different thing. But Jalen Green's inconsistent and his just complete disappearance is what put him on the clock to be traded.
Gotcha. Tommy, your thoughts on the trade, and does it shake up the West?
So first of all, I want to say I'm a little offended there, Mr. Bennett. I know Shawnee's from Texas, but we are definitely Houston's daddy. Uh, but nah, I ain't gonna lie to you. That's scary. If that come together the way it can come together with Ime Udoka coaching, Houston gonna be scary for the next couple of years. The second rounds, who care? Because like Shawnee said, not only are you getting second rounders, you're getting back of the second rounders more than likely. Because with that team, barring some crazy injuries, they going to the off. And I believe with that team they got now, bare minimum second round. Um, because like Shawnee said, the major thing that they was missing was offense. And if you put Dillon Brooks plus Jalen Green in that performance, I think KD can outshine both of them as far as offensively. Defensively, it'd be interesting to see if Udoka could get the same results as he did, when he had Dillon Brooks. But I mean, Dillon Brooks and Jalen Green, and then a bunch of second rounders that, you know, more than likely, bench players at best. For Kevin Durant, I think that's a solid trade. And I think Houston got a chance to be scary. I think the West is going to be it's going to get spooky in the West for a lot of people.
It's gonna be a gunfight. Coach, your thoughts on Durant going to Houston? You
You on
muted,
mute,
sir.
coach.
Okay. It was a bad trade for Houston and a bad trade for Phoenix also, right? Houston shouldn't have gave up Dillon Brooks. He's that type of defensive, prowess that you want. He's just like Draymond Green, shorter version. And KD ain't playing defense like that. KD is damn near 40. He's in the older time. You can get some players that could have averaged 25, 26. He can shoot the ball, but his shooting game has to be on every day, and he's a lot older. Jalen Green, I think Houston just got tired of his little low level. They saw what he was doing in the street, so they had to get him up out of there. But I don't know. I just don't like with Dillon. I would have gave him something else because they gave up a first-round draft pick. I wouldn't have gave up Dillon. They gave up this year's draft pick and some second-rounders, but I would have kept Dillon Brooks because he's the one defensive hard-nosed that they need, and I don't see KD being that. They did bring in more scoring. Jalen Green's a young player, but yeah, I'd have to get. I wouldn't have gave up
Yeah,
Dillon Brooks, but
no, coach.
KD.
They have a better defender on the team than Brooks. That's Amen Thompson.
No, man, Thompson, yeah.
That's why
And
if you that dude is legit. And then you got
yeah,
Tari Eason. They have young players who can now. Like I said, like I mentioned, Brooks
You
is
got that
he's a
dog out
culture
there.
setter for the team. So I believe Brooks will be missed just because the intangibles he will bring to a roster. You know, opposing teams may hate him, but the teams he owns, they love him. The intangibles that he brings. But as far as
Well,
defenders who actually can play defense, the Rockets have that. Like I said, they have Ahmed Thompson, they have Tyree Eason,
They
and they have
young.
Jabari Smith. So they have
They
the
all
defenders.
young. They all young, and it comes down to wins and losses, though. Is what I'm
But
yeah.
saying. It comes down to
have you
wins.
seen Ahmad Thompson play defense?
So
Yes, I seen them all. I watch basketball all the time. Yeah, he's okay, but he ain't
this my
Dillon
problem with
Brooks.
what you said though, Coach Ferg, and like I think y'all got to give a lot more respect to Draymond Green. Like that dude ain't in the universe of Draymond Green. Like period.
But
Not in the same
you
universe.
mischaracterized what I was saying, Tommy. What I'm
What
saying
you?
is Draymond Green is the pit bull for the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah,
It
but
ain't got nothing
what
to
I'm
do. No, I'm not talking about his basketball on the court. I'm talking about
yeah.
who he's going to be the guy to step up. He's going to be the guy to get an extra push. Draymond Green does that, and that's what Brooks does
But
for his teams.
I think the biggest difference, and Draymond kind of talked about it on his podcast, is like what Shawnee said. I agree with you to a point because I think the difference is Dylan goes kind of too far. And when I say that is he pokes the bear, but his defense, I don't think is good enough to handle the poked bear.
But if Draymond wasn't on Golden State wouldn't even be in the top six. What I'm saying
No,
is
no. Listen,
FYI,
what he
Houston
brings to
picked
the
the
table.
7-footer from Duke.
Yeah,
I mean Muliach.
well, that's a good pick. Now, see,
Yeah.
now they might be tough with him
no.
in the back. Yeah, okay,
So this is what I'm
that
saying.
changes.
This is what I'm saying, Ferg. When Draymond pushes a button, he got the defense to back that up. When and this is what I'm saying, Shawnee. I think some of the teammates kind of get tired of him. Is if you're gonna poke that bear, you have to be able to back it up. You poke LeBron, and now LeBron's scoring 50 on us. Nigga, shut up. Like I think that's the problem with somebody like Dylan. He did it with Steph last year in the playoffs. He pissed Steph off, and Steph cooked him. And it's
Yeah, but
like,
Houston wasn't really complaining about. They like Brooks, so
no, they don't usually outwardly complain about it. But what I'm saying is, like, I'll give you a perfect example, like the story that J.R. Ryder talked about. Like, he was having a good game against Jordan, and he come back to the bench, and the young Kevin
Yeah,
Garnett come back, yeah, bust his ass, bust his ass, bust his ass. And he like, nah, chill, chill, chill. And then they come out the second half, and Jordan killed this nigga, and he looking at him like, young fella, you gotta chill. What I'm saying, I'm not saying that they gonna hate the dude, but what I'm saying is if you're poking bears and some of these bears ain't even the nigga that you got to guard, and you're pissing this dude off enough to where, like, we have a track record of Dillon Brooks pissing people off, and they just start cooking whatever team he on, Memphis and Houston. If I'm a
my
team and I'm like, hey, dog, you gotta
well,
relax.
but
my
We
thing
get the
because
intensity, but you gotta chill.
it didn't go rampant with Houston because of their coach. Because Ime Udoka, hell, he gets
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah,
trouble
yeah,
for
yeah.
talking to players.
Yeah.
So Brooks can talk, and if it gets to the point where he's talking too much, Ime Udoka will put an end to that. So
Yeah.
that's why like the culture. That's why I mentioned Brooks is going to be missed because of the culture in that locker room. But I believe that Udoka will be able to bring, because Udoka is a tone setter by far. He's going to put the pressure on the young guys they have the talent to play defensively. But if they want to be a culture setter and replace that tone that Brooks set, I think Udoka will be able to bring it out of the young players because he has all
No,
the
no, no, for
ingredients.
sure. He's always he did it in Boston, and he got to Houston
That's
and did it.
why, and
He
that's
definitely
why I
have a
said it
track
wasn't a
record.
bad trade because
But
they have the system right there.
even what Brooks did after they lost, exactly what Draymond said. When people see that, the respect goes. You talk all that shit, you chirping the whole series, and then when you lose, you run off like a bitch.
but
Come on, dog.
listen, you
Yeah.
mischaracterized really quick. Not everybody has a Steph Curry. If Draymond Green was
Yeah.
on the Wizards would still be 3-62. Is all I'm saying. What I'm saying
No,
is
for sure.
so what I'm saying is his Draymond Green takes the brunt of whatever it is Golden State as far as defense. He's their defense, all right. He's a tone setter, just like Dillon Brooks for that young Houston Rocket team. I'm just saying and I agree with Shawnee, and that's why I say this. He's going to be missed early and often because I don't see nobody. Okay, I'll give it to All-Star to see who steps up as that defensive leader, who's not afraid to get in there and beat a. Because KD ain't gonna do it. He ain't gonna do it.
Well, we'll see about this rookie. That, like I said,
It'd
we'll see about this
Thompson.
rookie that they got. He's on the boards. He's a shot blocker and a rebounder. So we'll see. And he's been balling out like the whole time.
He would stay there though, because the Bulls traded to Phoenix. So I don't think he would stay there.
They need to keep him.
I'm still trying to figure out how this is working because that pick was traded to Phoenix, but Houston still made it. So I'm like, and then they keep saying proposed trade. Like I thought the trade already happened. This was Phoenix pick, but Houston picked them. So
I think it was their 19th pick. Didn't Houston have two? They gave him a 19th pick or something. It was something.
I think
I thought it was number 10.
Oh,
yeah,
well,
they traded 10 in the KD deal. They traded
Yeah.
10 to Phoenix, but Houston still picked this, and they just keep
because the
saying
new
proposed
league hadn't
trade.
started. I don't think the new league started yet. They can't make it.
All right. Well, let's switch gears a little bit here. Obviously, let's talk about the Titanic that's sinking. So obviously, as Houston's on the rise, seem like my Celtics, they're basically cleaning the house. Faced with a $500 million budget next year, they're emptying house. They trade Drew Holiday. Now Anthony Simmons, he had a very good year for Portland last year. They also got rid of Kristaps Porzingis for a couple of picks as well. We don't know what the fate of Tatum is, but Celtics, they're definitely just trying to downsize. This was just before the Porzingis trade when this came out. And so, obviously, they're just looking to do payroll. So, I can't see them being in the mix next year. I have no idea how Tatum's going to be coming back from that injury. Even if he comes, he's definitely, I think he's going to be out all the next year. So I don't think
I forgot about the Achilles.
Yeah, so he's like a year out, maybe comes back the next year, whatnot. So this is just a fire sale for the Celtics, I think. I like the younger acquisition, but again, they're going to be they'll be a playoff team, but they'll be you're looking at a 4 or 5, maybe 6 seed at this point, because all these other teams, Houston, not Houston, Detroit, Orlando, those teams also on the come up as well. We'll see what the Knicks do. I think a lot of it's going to depend on where does Giannis. Does he stay in Milwaukee, or does one of these other teams in the East pick? If the Heat picks up Giannis, that's going to make things very interesting. I think if he decides to land in Miami, that's going to be something there. But yeah, this is going to be some dark days coming up for me in my.
Is there any truth to them shopping Derek White and Jalen Brown?
Possibly, like I said, it's a like I said, I think it's a fire sale. They just sold last year, and like I said, they make no money. We showed a stat last week on the most profitable teams. They're barely making any money, because the other thing with the Celtics is the problem is they don't own their own arena. That arena, I think, is owned by the Bruins. So as far as revenue generating for the money that was spent, even though the Lakers broke the bank, but the Lakers are still one of the most. They were in the top 5 most profitable sports franchises in the world. And so the Celtics, the fact that they're not making any money and they got sold to a venture capitalist firm or whatnot, yeah, it's almost like, look, we got to make these cuts, maybe rebuild again with the draft. I mean, Stevens did a good job.
Mr. Bennett?
Yeah.
The Valkyries, the newest team in the WNBA, is already the most valuable WNBA team.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is insane. And the Lakers sale just pretty much boosted up the Warriors' value. So, but
yeah, that's a good point here by Anton. I mean, obviously, Akeem Olajuwon, Lodge coming in, born in Sudan, raised in Uganda. And if Akeem, is he still affiliated with a team like that, Shawnee? Is he still?
He's not like on their staff, but he works out. I mean, he
works out with a bunch of players.
He worked out Sengun one time early in Sengun's career. He still hangs around, so if he wants to, he'll be there. But I'm still trying to figure out. I don't think he's going to be with the Rockets. I think he's going to go to Phoenix. They basically traded him. They drafted him for Phoenix.
We'll see. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, so yeah, I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I don't run. I face my bad days just as well as my good days. So again, I'm ready for the smoke that's going to be coming for the next couple of years. I'm just buckling down. and waiting's going to see what happens. So again, lots of trade moves. Again, obviously we can have a show next week where we kind of really sort of summarize this draft, I guess the winners and losers from this particular draft, as well as any potential trades that may come out of the draft. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if Celtics kind of unload everybody, especially with the monies that's been paid out. But want to switch gears a little bit. We got we're having it towards the end of the show. Good discussion on the NBA, but I want to switch to a little NFL. So one story I read recently, I was kind of sad to hear. Was about, I don't know if you guys saw this. So Drew Brees, obviously, is going to be in the Hall of Fame, quarterback, 80,000 yards or whatnot. So again, he basically, his arm, he had an injury. Now he says his arm is permanently damaged. He basically doesn't have use of his arm anymore. So very sad to hear that. Certainly, but he was a very good player. For a lot of years with that with that franchise, and but this is the price you pay in the NFL, and how many guys, if you had an opportunity to play at that level, people would ask, is it worth your arm? If say for the rest of your life, he's got millions and millions of the bank, he's got generational wealth, and all those kind of attributes and whatnot. Is it worth playing to the point where you don't have use of your arm anymore? I think a lot of guys, especially if you are a football player, I think a lot of guys would sign up for the deal to have the sort of career that he had. But
I think basketball, baseball, everybody sign up.
Yeah, I mean to have that kind of thing, but it is still sad to hear. I know Johnny Unitas, if I recall, later in his career, his arm got pretty messed up as well, but he didn't have use of his arm. I think he had an elbow injury that never quite healed. He couldn't like straighten out his arm anymore from playing. But he's still 80,000. That's a lot of passes. So yeah, and he probably. Now, the only thing I would say is, could he have maybe retired? If he retired a little bit early, would that have made a difference? Maybe if he would have stepped away from the game 2 or 3 years earlier, could that have made a difference? We'll never know. But certainly, he certainly left it all on the field. But I just wanted to, kind of bring this up. If you guys have any comments on Breeze and where would you rank him? Obviously he's got gaudy stats. But certainly, obviously, when you talk about Brady and Manning and those quarterbacks, so where do you rank Breeze? Say, I would say since 2000, where would you rank him as far as top quarterback since? I say 2000 since the draft. Say 2003, because I know he came in the same year as Manning did. So since that 2003 draft, where would you rank him as far as top quarterbacks since that time? Anybody wants to take that on?
I think.
Go ahead, Tom. Go ahead, Tommy.
No, I was gonna say, if you remember, that injury in San Diego was
got
damn near
injured.
supposed to be career ending, and then they brought him back, and then what he played, 7, 8, 9, 10 years.
Right, 10
So that's a
more.
lot of miles on a shoulder that was supposed to be career ending, and this is why I try to have grace for a lot of these players, because we don't see a lot of behind the scenes shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, because they go out there and they put their game face on, and we just think they just 100% healthy, and these dudes is going through shit that, you know, half of America, if you get a hangnail, you missing
Yeah,
work, and
yeah,
these dudes is going out here playing with shit that, you know, you'd be in a hospital laid up, doped up about. You know what I'm saying? So that's why when I see a lot of this, any of these sports, and you see some of these players, and they might be a little bit off or this, that, and the other, we don't really never know what's really going on with them. And I guess, hey, if you step on the field, it is what it is. Which, yeah, that's cliche to say, but the reality is, if my arm is barely hanging on, fuck. If I throw an interception or two, like, no shit. Like, this is hard enough to do if I'm 100% healthy. So, I mean, it kind of just showed me what a lot of these players are willing to play through to get on that field. And it almost kind of makes me give him more props on what he's accomplished, to see that, because all we see is, oh, he had the shoulder surgery, he can play now. But it's not, oh, he had the shoulder surgery, but yet when you play, you're going to have to play through this crazy amount of pain and deal with it type shit. We just see him on the field and he just slinging that thing out there. So
But
but I think if you get a chance to do what you love, and you got to sacrifice an arm. Like y'all said, I think most people would do it.
Yeah. But Drew Brees, we gotta remember, he was good. He hurt his shoulder. He came back. He was one of the best. He won Super Bowl. The problem is he went out on another injury. After they got it right, he had another major injury, and now you starting
Got
from
you.
scratch. So that's what really affected him, and that's why he's like, it ain't
So you know
coming up.
what? That's
So
probably why Derek Carr just hung it up.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
like, I ain't. It's over
Yeah.
with. You
Yeah.
had your dream, and Derek Carr understood. Let me save my arm at least.
Because think about it.
Yeah,
If he
so
in New Orleans, I'm pretty sure he sees Drew Brees on the regular.
but
So
would y'all do it for I
if he's
believe 99% of people would do it for 30 million.
yeah, but
Yeah.
if I'm Derek Carr and I'm pretty sure Drew Brees still hangs around the Saints, and I see Drew Brees, and if me and him having a conversation, and this nigga telling me I could barely lift my arm, I hurt my shoulder. Yeah, I'm gonna holler at y'all later. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
I done made a gang of money. I'm gonna just get up out of
Yeah.
here.
Tommy, where would you rank him since 2003? He's in your top 5?
Since 2003.
Yeah, that's when he came in, right? He came in drafted that 2003 draft with Manning and
I'd probably put him, if not top five, right outside of the top five. Like Drew Brees was a motherfucker, you
yeah.
know. So yeah, and let's not forget, he ain't the tallest guy in the world. I think what is he? Barely 6 foot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Hey, you
I
made
put him
it.
in the
Shout out
top
to
10.
shout out to Dante making it in. Did get a chance to talk about your Houston squad. But yeah, any thoughts first of all, since you are in from Texas, any thoughts on the KD trade to Houston? What do you think this places Houston? And they drafted the 7-footer from Duke, again another rim protector and defender. So first of all, what's your thoughts on that? And then we'll get back to the football story, and then we'll have our last block and we'll close out.
All right, what's going on, fellas? Um, Basically, I love the trade for the Rockets. If you watch that playoff series, it's like who's going to get a bucket? It was so hard to watch them score. You know, they got the young center. I like the young center, but it's like you could tell this is your first time on the big stage. But I like Amin Thompson. But getting a proven score with him, let's be honest, KD at his advanced age, he's not trying to go out and, he ain't been locking up and playing, good hard nosed defenses. I would say maybe when he was with the Warriors before pre Achilles injury, he was pretty good as a help defender. But at this point now, he can let those young guys get out there and get it. Fred VanVleet, a good solid veteran point guard, and it proves the moves that they made to build the team to get to where they are now. You keep the assets, and then you go get a KD who is not as expensive as it used to be. You can't. And I heard a lot of Rockets fans they gave up so much. I was like, do y'all not realize the second round picks are lottery tickets? And that so the second round picks didn't mean much. And the number 3 overall pick didn't play for the Rockets last year. He couldn't get on the floor because they were trying to be a playoff team. He's going to help out more next year. You kept him. Absolutely love the move for them. And I don't know what the hell the Suns are doing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it's gonna be very interesting. Again, I think they got the coach, and I think they have a culture that I think he can certainly appreciate and thrive in. Any thoughts again on Drew Brees? So again, the story, now he doesn't have use of his arm, from the injuries that he took and whatnot. Your thoughts? Where would you rank Drew Brees in your top? I guess since 2003, top quarterbacks in the league. Where would you rank him on your list?
Since 2003,
That's when he came into the league. So yeah,
came in the league. I'm putting him under Big Ben, just slightly under Big Ben because
mm-hmm.
I mean Ben did it for such a long time and the longevity. But I say prolific wise, I would take him, but it was worth the career that they had. And then he's above Rivers. People may not like it. He's above Rodgers. I know Rodgers has those.
Wow.
I know Rodgers has those MVPs, but for what he
Yeah.
was able to do to go and always be in that mix, like yeah, it was some heartbreaking losses. I would say talent wise, he was above him, but I guess over the totality of seeing the careers, I'll sour it a little bit on Rodgers because I know he had that great talent, but it's like if you have this great talent, but you still like right here with this guy, I mean, I can go back and
Sorry,
forth on that one.
That
Dang.
brought Tommy back. I think Tommy was off the show for a minute. When he heard that, he had to
No,
come back.
my pops just walked in. You gotta relax, dog. You have to relax.
Maybe
You
it's the
have to
maybe it's the
relax, bro.
last few years on me because bro,
It probably is.
it's probably that. I probably need to take time away, but nah.
Look. Let's not forget. He has a touchdown to interception ratio that will never be touched.
You know what? Nah, it's not even that. It's not even that. I got one better for you. That throw that he made in that playoff game, where I was like, bro, how did you hold on to that ball and throw it to the sideline and then the divisional round against my Cowboys? I remember
Yeah.
I was nope. You right. I had blocked that out of my head. You right. You sure right. You sure
I
right.
I got I got Breeze in
Nope,
the
take it
top
back.
10. That's all. I
No,
have him in
Top
the
please.
top
10. So
10.
he's not in your top. So who do you? So
Who's
No, no, no. I'm trying to
okay. So
think.
we can get Manning,
Brady, Manning,
Brady,
I
Rogers.
go.
I
Roger.
don't know. I
Yeah. So
guess
you
some would
got
pick Roethlisberger, but you would,
Fuck
yeah,
no. Fuck no.
Manning,
Hell no.
Oh, hang on. We're talking about
Rogers.
Breeze now. Breeze
No,
over
no.
Breeze.
With
Yeah,
Roethlisberger,
Manning,
no.
Rogers,
You wouldn't take
Brady.
you wouldn't take
No.
Roethlisberger over Breeze. He's been to 3 Super Bowls.
Let's not forget. He was pretty much dragged through that first Super Bowl. He was shit.
He won the second
He
Well,
one. He won
he
the
had
second one.
he but understand this because you got to remember, Drew Brees went to the Aints. That's what we called them because that's how ass of a franchise he was. Ben Roethlisberger's went to a he went to a team that's had three coaches since before I was born.
Mm.
Ever,
3 in your lifetime.
ever.
2 in your
Like,
lifetime.
you know what I'm saying? Like he and again, it's not a knock towards him because it's kind of like the same thing I say with Emmitt Smith. Like, it ain't your fault, but nigga, you had a Hall of Fame fullback. Like
Come
you had
Well,
Hall
on,
of
not
Fame
only that,
Charlie,
yeah,
fullback.
man.
that
Come
line,
on,
No,
man.
yeah,
He's the
that
running back,
that
bro.
no.
Dallas O line, yeah, that was pretty.
That's what I'm saying.
Come
Like
It's
you
hard
had
not
on.
to be successful
multiple
with that line.
multiple Hall of Famers on your O line, a Hall of Fame tight end, a Hall of Fame fullback, a Hall of Fame receiver, a Hall of Fame
Bruh,
quarterback. Again, not your fault, but I'm just saying the position you was put in, a little
no,
blessed.
they wasn't those players before he got there. Dallas was one of the worst teams. He
I
helped
agree.
orchestrate that. He helped
But they were
orchestrate.
that during that, like they turned
Mm.
into that during him being there. And you're not going to tell me Emmitt Smith turned his fullback into a Hall of Famer. And the offensive line wasn't just Hall of Fame because of run blocking; it was also pass blocking. And then again, you got Michael Irvin out there, who now I can't really put 8 or 9 in the box because we got Michael Irvin out here who gonna smoke our boots. Or what's his name, Daryl Johnston,
But
the
that's
tight
yeah,
end.
the fullback.
hold on. Every football team has that capability. Every football team. The fact that they did it in the way that they was able to perform it has a lot to do with the running back, the quarterback. Everybody's a part of that because without Emmett, we saw what they were doing. They were losing, and they said, "Man, we need to go get our running back because he was an intricate part." But you look at any other team, the running back, we saw how the running back is probably the second most important player on the offense over the last year and a half. We've seen that.
No,
So yeah,
coach, I'm not trying to take nothing away from him. I'm just saying when
and
you're
I don't even
putting
like the Cowboys.
put it like this, coach. If if you come from money, right, and you build your business, I can't knock you building your business, but I'm gonna look at the guy that got it out the mud a little bit different from the dude that got it that came from money.
Mm.
That's just and so with Roethlisberger, you went to a 5-star, literally, if not number one, number two franchise in the NFL.
Mm.
Drew Brees went to the Aints.
Well, he went to San Diego first.
Yeah,
He
but I'm
did,
saying
Well,
but
he went to
well,
New
that's a
Orleans where they wore paper bags
they
over
was
their
pretty good.
heads.
They was pretty good though back in that time when he
well,
came
that's the
there.
thing about Drew Brees. I mean, you can make an argument that he since 2000 is a top 5 quarterback, but I have two names that you know. Basically, I think Drew Brees, outside the point that Thomas mentioned, basically was a franchise. I mean, a player can't they can't always control where they go for the most part. It's just, but how they produce wherever they at, how they what their production looks like. And Roethlisberger, as we were just going back and forth with, he's one of the ones that you can potentially argue a case, and the other one is Kurt Warner. Now, the thing that Drew Brees has over both of them, he has a longer career. So his stats, he was able to compile more stats. But if you're talking about a shorter impact and whatnot, Kurt Warner, he has a championship. He has more MVPs. I don't even think Brees has an MVP. Kurt Warner, meanwhile, has 2. So he has in a shorter range. He has. It's just Drew Brees. He has a longer career. So it's kind of hard when you look at that.
But would you pick Brees over Roethlisberger?
Oh man.
See, I gotta defend Roethlisberger. First of all, yeah, he wasn't the greatest in that first. He wasn't the greatest in that first Super Bowl, but he was great in the playoffs. He beat Peyton Manning in his own stadium. He had a great game against Denver, and he made that most crucial tackle when Jerome Bettis fumbles the ball at the goal line, and he's the only guy between them and the Colts going up. So I got to defend my guy Ben in that situation.
You just. I'm just thinking about it just basically on the throw of the football. Like now, I'm splitting hairs trying to, because Roethlisberger, his skill set, he can throw the ball and he's damn hard to bring down. That was his, so he always kept his team that play active for his team.
Yeah.
Drew Brees is just one of the more prolific throwers of the football in the history of the league. So you have to see me. I appreciate a throwing quarterback. That's the main thing I'm looking at when people don't. I'm not on the biggest Lamar Jackson train per se. I respect his talent. I know what he's accomplished and everything. But when I'm looking at a quarterback based on a throw of football, that's something I think about when I have.
So he throws so you get him because he throws a prettier ball. Is that what you're saying?
No, he's a hell of a quarterback. His numbers can compare to anybody in the history of the league.
Well, obviously the numbers are off the chain, obviously. But again, in terms of who had more playoff success, more Super Bowl appearances.
Well, I believe if you put Drew Brees on the Steelers, he probably would have produced something similar. Now, I think of the total picture. Now that means he has to mesh with that coordinator. Will Roethlisberger do something with the Saints? He probably can because Sean Payton is a hellified mind, during that time. So I'm pretty sure he would have figured out something with Roethlisberger. So, like I say, I'm splitting hairs trying to see now.
So you still got 8. Well, I mentioned 5 guys, so you still got 3 guys. You say he's top 10.
Well, my whole thing was at the time. Then when we started thinking about it, because I'm looking. I had time to look at the numbers. Originally, I had Manning, Brady, Roethlisberger, Warner, and who was the
Rodgers? You putting Rodgers up there?
Rodgers. So I had those 5. But as we started talking about it, I'm like, and I started looking. I'm like. Well, Brees' numbers compare mainly because he had a longer career than Roethlisberger and Warner. So
that ain't why they just better.
He had his productivity was longer. So basically, you just like how you can make a case for Roethlisberger, how you may choose him over Brees. There's somebody on Brees' side, so you splitting hairs when it comes down to that.
I got
so that's the main thing. And the thing with Warner. He could stack up to any of them, but it's his impact was just so smaller compared to the other QBs on the list. Now, I think Dante, I think he had a blip. I think he quickly came back when he talked about Brees over Rodgers. So I forgive him on that one. Rodgers and Rodgers, Brady, and Manning, they out the stratosphere.
Where's Finesse Visions tonight when I need him to talk about the Steelers? I'm the only Steelers fans up here. Where's Finesse when I need him? But in any event,
you got to take that Steelers hat off because I can throw a name.
I'm just saying I need Finesse tonight. I'm getting gang up on here.
If I was a homer, I could throw a name in there who has stats, but he obviously don't prepare.
Don't do it.
If I was a homer,
we're gonna get blamed, bro. Don't do it, bro. Tell me keep cranking up.
If I was a homer,
let's get into this last topic. Let's get into this last topic, gentlemen. I got one. I'm going to share my screen here. So this is this debate topic I want to bring up, and we'll see if I can hopefully I get the audio to work on it. But let's see here if we can pull this up. All right. So last topic of the night.
You ever get the audio for it?
Yeah, I was about to say I can hear it.
I can't hear it.
And damn,
Can't hear. Can't hear it.
no value. No
Nah,
value. Yeah.
It look like whatever Sherman said. Look like boys are getting on him. Though.
All right, sorry guys, I couldn't get the audio. But I think you saw the. So basically, you had a debate. So you had Richard Sherman, the playmaker, and Keyshawn Johnson, and basically you had Sherman saying that defensive back is a harder position than wide receiver. So then Keyshawn, he made the point, which I've heard often saying, well, back in the day, you used to play wide receiver. Like basically they said cornerbacks are simply wide receivers who couldn't catch the ball consistently. And so that was kind of like his comeback on that one. So the last topic of the night, what do you guys think is the harder position? Wide receiver or cornerback in NFL? What's the harder
this ain't even a debate,
Hands
bro.
down, yeah.
It's a topic, Tom. You just say
No, let's just look at it, dog. As a receiver, you know where you're going. As a DB, I have no idea where you're going at all. And I got a back pedal where you're running full speed at me forward. How is that even a debate? That is insane.
One of the traits of a good cornerback is confidence because you're gonna get burned. That's how tough the position is. So I was like, I hear them on the receiver, and my thing is, find me to like. Now I would say that Richard Sherman was an anomaly. They found him in the later rounds, and he was great. But normally, if you want to say conservatively building a team, hey, you built the front seven, you get the quarterback, of course. But hey, sometimes picking a receiver early, you can find those gems in the middle or later rounds. Finding a corner, if you're not getting a corner in the top 3 rounds, normally that guy is just you're not really going to be able to get one because they're so rare.
I was just about to say what Antoine said. Who better that could tell you than somebody that played both positions? Like,
well, that's the thing. I think his point was, I think Keyshawn's point, all cornerbacks played wide receiver.
Yeah.
And the reason why they switched to corner is because they couldn't catch the ball consistently.
Yeah.
If you caught 90% of the balls caught, regardless of where it is, catch it low, catch it high, do the 2-step, do all that kind of stuff, you would have been a wide receiver. But because you couldn't, they switched you. You were athletic enough, you had the speed, so they switched you over to cornerback. Or probably when you were in high school, you were going to play both, right? Because in high school, you played both positions most of the time. But when it came down to your specialty, you didn't have the wide receiver skill set to stay a wide receiver, and so they left you, and so they made you a cornerback. So I think that's what Keyshawn's pushback is. Go ahead, Coach.
Here's the thing, though. You're talking about catching the ball, right? If you can't catch the ball sitting still, you can't catch the ball running for sure. Now, the ability to catch, I can see that being different. You know, some guys can run and can't catch. And
the definition of a wide receiver is create separation and catch the ball. But
that's the NFL's position, but it's also route running too.
But that's what I'm saying. You create separation through speed, through route running, or your vertical.
But Tommy,
that's how you create separation.
Yeah, but Tommy already said it. You know where you're going, and the fact that you can run a split second stop and cut, yes. But the fact that you got to chase me down the field, not see the ball, maybe a second or two, and avoid getting blocked, and still be able to tip it or intercept it or something, that's hard as hell. And I'm coming right back at you the next play. So, and then when they run sweeps to your side, you have to be able to come up, look at Dante dead in the eye, and try to avoid him blocking you. And he got fire in his eye because they lose. Now they want to win the championship. Then I got to avoid that and make a tackle. So I would give it to the DB.
I always say cornerback is the hardest position to play on the field. The quarterback is the most demanding because obviously they have to know. But the corner, that's the hardest. You basically have to approach, like Dante just alluded to, you have to approach being a cornerback like a baseball player. Failure has to be you have to become one with it because you are going to be guarding the fastest dude on the field, and like y'all mentioned, this dude can cut on a dime, and you have to be able to keep up with him. It's one thing especially in the NFL, because that's the main thing I think people don't recognize about quarterbacks coming from college into the NFL. College, the window in college is it can be 5 yards or whatnot.
Yeah.
But a cornerback in the NFL, he has to basically be no more than 2 or 1 yards behind the receiver. He has to keep up with that receiver. That's how tight the window they expect a corner to be about. And for a quarterback, sometimes they trying to wait until the receiver can extend and create this window. No, you got to throw the ball right when that window is. A window may be only a foot in front of a DB, but that's because that DB is so talented he can keep up with that receiver. But yeah, I can understand because you had Keyshawn and Irvin, obviously 2 elite receivers during their time. But yeah,
hang on. Let me see if I can get that audio. Let me see if I can get that audio to work again. Hang on. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear it this time.
Something to piss you off right now? Corner is a harder position.
See, now I gotta go, Mike.
I gotta get it.
And this ain't rehearsed. Skip, let me just talk to you real quick. I want to get you in on this.
Yeah. I can't believe you trying to get
Now, hold on, Mike.
Go ahead.
Mike.
Let y'all talk.
You said it's a harder position.
Harder position.
Harder position. What did you start off at?
Receiver.
What does that say? You play receiver. You couldn't play it at the level that got you to where you are. So you went to corner because it was much easier to do.
Well, you ain't got to catch that ball.
All you got to do is run with somebody.
So the reason I moved positions is because I didn't want to be dependent on somebody else.
Oh, yeah,
I
nice
didn't
try.
want to be. One second.
Nice try.
I didn't want to be dependent on somebody else. I wanted to control my own destiny. And you know what I wanted to do?
You know what?
I wanted to make sure that I impacted every play. I didn't want no water breaks. I didn't want to take off. Hey, it's a 10-play series. You play corner, I'm on the field for 10 plays. It's a 60-play game. I'm on the field for 60 plays. I'll say something to piss you off right now. Corner is a harder position.
See, now I got to go, Mike.
All right.
Yeah, they basically were saying the stuff that we were just saying,
But
they tried to minimize sermons. I said, "No, y'all can't."
The problem is the only thing that you're saying is I couldn't catch. I can run routes, I can get the separation. I just couldn't catch. You don't see receivers being able to put it like this. You don't see a DB go down and they go, "Oh, receiver, go play it." You know what I'm saying? That's not even an option for 99.9% of the players. Now, on the other hand, you done got gadget plays. You got all kind of situations where you will throw a DB in there to play a receiver. But it's very rare where you'll have that the opposite way. It just, I don't understand how that could even be an argument where you're DB, you're literally on an island, basically blindfolded almost.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of got to guess where they're going. And don't be wrong, because if you guess wrong, they blowing by you for a touch. I don't know.
Well, to me, it's almost like the inverse of averages. I think someone used the baseball analogy earlier. So in baseball, you're going to strike out or ground out 7 out of 10 times, which is certainly the mindset of a DB, right? You just don't want to get beat by the touchdown, but you'll let guys get their catches or whatnot. You can get 10 catches on a DB as long as you don't allow the touchdown. It's fine. But a wide receiver, though, it's the inverse. You have to catch at least 6 out of your 10 balls. If you don't, you're sitting on the bench. Especially if you miss a touchdown catch that's in your hands.
Fumble.
Then again. So I think the fact that there's the error curve or the margin for error for a wide receiver is much less than that of a cornerback. Cornerback, you're gonna if a guy's gonna catch a ball, you're gonna intentionally foul them. You'd rather take the 15 yards or whatever, or just don't let the touchdown in. So it's it's about minimizing mistakes. But a wide receiver, you got to be perfect. You got to get 2 feet down. Especially on a pro game, 2 feet down. How many times have we saw guys get 1 foot in, not drag the second toe or whatever? So again, as far as from a skill set, I think there's a lot more that's put on the wide receiver when they have to make the plays. And as far as he's saying if it's a 10-play drive, if you're the number 1 receiver, you're going to be there 10 times too. So I don't know what he means by, it's not like the wide receiver necessarily is going to get a play off.
Mr. Bennett, is it's plays the ball ain't coming to your side.
Exactly.
I as a DB don't know that, so I
Don't
still
know
got
that.
to be on 100. But you
Yeah.
as a receiver, you can kind of lightweight chill out on that play.
And they
I
do
don't
that.
have I don't
Well,
have that. I don't
I've
have
seen a
that
lot of
opportunity.
receivers get dog. Well, if you don't throw that block or like, then that's the problem. What I got, we just traded from the Steelers, right? We traded
But
because
every
he was
play isn't a
constantly.
block,
If he
though,
wasn't involved
Mr.
in the
Bennett.
play, then he's out of the game, and he's not
But
in the game.
but what I'm saying is there's plays
That's
where
right. It's
a
the
certain
problem.
receiver isn't in the play. Like hell, they
Right.
got some plays where you're literally just a decoy.
Yep.
That's it,
Half
just
the
a
plays.
decoy.
Yeah, at least 50% of the plays they decoys.
I understand that, but I'm saying is, but for a lot of receivers, they tune out, and they're not necessarily in the game anymore, and that's what got my guy to Pittsburgh 14 now with the Cowboys. Good luck with that. So all I'm saying, you better throw him the ball and throw it quite often, otherwise you're gonna have a problem on your hands.
Right.
Just saying.
But he won't have a quarterback that sucks. That's the thing. You won't have a QB that's bad.
That's an
except for the playoffs. Just wait for the playoffs.
And
He'll be good to the playoffs, though.
I don't want to say this as if like we're trying to say that playing receiver is easy, but when you're comparing it to DB, I don't even know how it's even close. Because again, based off the fact that I don't know where you're going. That's simple. I don't know where you're going.
Mr. Benny, you said something very. No, he said something very, very critical. I think the margin of error is very limited as a receiver.
Yeah.
Once that ball's in your vicinity, you have to catch. But as a DB,
and everybody's going to judge if you drop, especially if it's a critical catch late in the game or a touchdown. You ride that every week. I mean, again, a cornerback, you're going to give up touchdowns every once in a while, and it's accepted. So again, the DB is about minimizing, the big stuff. But for wide receiver, it can mean and obviously it pays off in the pay scale. Now, look, I know quarterbacks last year got paid. They're still not looking at towards $40 million for corner, at least not yet anyway. But there's also a value in the position of a wide receiver over a defensive back that matters in the numbers. So if it was that much more important, you would think it'd be a lot more parity.
Well, no,
but only until very recently.
No, that's a statistic thing, though, Mister. Because when I go into an office, I can say I put up 1,500 yards, this many touchdowns, this many catches. As a DB, I could have a great game, and my stat sheet say 0, 0, 0, 0, and I could have had a wonderful game. Matter of fact, this is the crazy part about it, Mr. Bennett. The better I am at a corner, the less they gonna throw to me. So, in fact, the better I am as a corner, the worse my stats. I mean, of course, if you just a regular fan, stat-wise, your stats are gonna look worse.
But is it value though? Like, did Prime ever make more than like a top receiver like a Jerry Rice or in that day when he's going against all those top guys, Chris Carter and whatnot? Prime never made more than any of the top wide receivers in the league, and he was clearly arguably the best corner. Like I may say Mel Blount, but that's another story. But I'm just saying. But I don't think he was ever.
I think Prime might be a bad one because I think if anybody, he might have been the one to make that. But I get what you're saying on the regular. That's just not a regular one. Like, because even like Revis, when Revis, was on his run, he was paid handsomely, but I don't
not as much as a top receiver. Like, I don't think he made more than the top 10 wide receivers in the NFL. I don't think Revis or any of the top guys ever made more than the top 10 wide receivers in the league. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know if it's strategy too, because you can throw away from a top DB. You can scheme around him, and he can go and try to travel, but then that throws off the rest of the defense. But since whoever affects the quarterback, which is normally the pass rusher, protects the quarterback, the left tackle, and then the receiver who's in step with the receiver, football hierarchy, they're gonna always get paid more.
Yeah. Plus those receivers, look, some of those guys got to go over the middle. People forget about that too. I mean, yeah, you got your guys doing the post patterns. The guy's gonna. You're still gonna get hit though. I mean, I know they're gonna. And again, if you cooking, they still gonna hit you. I don't care what they're gonna say. They're still gonna hit you. If you that dude, they're gonna take you out the game. Look, find me, throw me out, whatever. But we got to stop him. And it's still the most dangerous thing for a wide receiver to go over the middle and be willing to take those hits.
A DB on a run play.
But he also still knows where he's going, and he can avoid a DB sometimes. Travis Kelce do it all the time.
I'm watching the draft, and there was a dude from China just drafted, but look, like he was sitting in the stands.
Yeah.
He got. He wasn't even sitting with the players. He got to walk through the
Oh,
crowd.
that's the they had a player, I
And
believe,
he's up
last
high
year that
too,
did the
Sean.
same thing.
Exactly.
So
In the second round.
That boy was waving after he got drafted. I'm like, man, why you not with the players?
You got mounted by the Grizzlies.
But yeah, I think I'm looking at it now. Look like the closest. Obviously, the quarterback is the highest paid position on the team, and then the second one is actually, as far as from the players, is the edge rusher,
I was gonna say edge
and
rusher or tackle.
then the receiver. Now this
Oh,
is
it's
just
not
based
tackle?
on.
Left tackle, I was thinking too.
This is based on the current players. Now, as I'm looking at it, this is 2024.
I would have
think
thought
it's
tackle
still
would have
kind
been third.
Because right now, it's the quarterback. I think it's still edge rusher. 'Cause I think Myles Garrett is making more than
he's like 40. He's making 40. But now TJ's contract hasn't come out yet, so I don't know what he's going to get. But
Crosby just got his money too.
Yeah.
Now I got to compare between Garrett's contract compared to Chase. 'Cause I think Chase right now is the highest paid receiver. So that's a whole other argument how people be complaining about these players' money. I'm like, dude, if you just follow the market,
It's just the market.
That's exactly how I give props to Dak's agent, because they played that game. People want to complain they don't deserve this money, dude. That's just the market. If you up next and if you work it, you gonna get paid that. So now, we looked at what's his name, the 49ers quarterback.
Purdy.
I don't think
He
he
didn't. No,
I don't think he got paid.
all the deals have came in where Dak is still the top guy.
Yeah,
But he had the advantage.
which was
breaking
surprising
the
to me.
codes.
'Cause I thought he was gonna get paid more than that. I knew he was gonna be the most controversial contract, because people were thinking, oh no, the reason his success was greatly due to his teammates. I thought he was gonna get paid more than that, but.
I got to look into this one, Coach. He's saying Deion was the highest paid player in the NFL with that contract. I don't know. I have to look at that one. I'll research that. He made more than quarterbacks. That would be
dollar amount, man. Look at that dollar amount compared.
I'm just saying. But I'd be surprised.
I remember him signing that contract.
Yeah, I know it was a big deal for the time, but the biggest in the NFL, that I'd have to look at that one again.
But Mr. Ben, that's why I said Deion is be a hard one to use, because if anybody was to have done it, it would have been Deion.
His defensive back salary.
Like you said, he was looking at that in college, that they wouldn't get paid that much, and he was figuring out a way to push up his market value.
Indeed.
He was ahead of
his
time.
Guys, we're well over 2 hours tonight, so I want to kind of bring the show to an abrupt end. But this has been real good. Chopping it up. We may have to bring this up again. Talking about these most important positions in the NFL.
Finals is over with, so we're going through a dead period. So we got
bring all the smoke, all ideas, any topics or whatever to send our way. Tommy, I'll be reaching out to you too. Anything you want to talk about, then be creative in this space. Yeah, we got a lot of dead air to fill until training camp and all that stuff starts. I can't get into baseball until late August. I just can't do it. I'm sorry.
I call it sports purgatory.
I can't do baseball now. I'm sorry. But in any event, though, great show tonight. Love the dialogue as always. But in last point, football ignores them. The offensive line cohesion is key, absolutely. But this has been a really good show tonight. Any quick final words before we show? If anyone has anything to say before I close it out, but I'm just gonna.
Cause I believe we got a show after waiting on us, right?
For sure. Yeah, all right, guys. All right, so great job again. Make sure for those who are coming in, make sure you guys hit the like button as you leave the show. But until next time, take care. God bless, and we'll see you next time. Good night.